We're joined now by William Barr. He served as Attorney General under former President Trump. His book, One Damn Thing After Another, is now available in paperback. Good morning, Mr. Barr. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me, Bob.
Former President Trump now says everyone except you says this indictment is about election interference and should not have been brought. He said, you know, the indictment is total BS. That's our shorthand for what he actually said. He's also known for watching the Sunday shows, and he obviously saw your appearance on another network last Sunday. Why is he wrong about this?
Well, this is not a circumstance where he's the victim or this is government overreach. He provoked this whole problem himself. Yes, he's been the victim of unfair witch hunts in the past, but that doesn't obviate the fact that he's also a fundamentally flawed person who engages in reckless conduct and that leads to situations, calamitous situations like this, which are very destructive and hurt any political cause he's associated with. And this was a case that entirely of his own making. He had no right to those documents. The government tried for over a year quietly and with respect to get them back, which was essential that they do. And he jerked them around. And he had no legal basis for keeping them. But beyond that, when he faced his subpoena, he didn't raise any legal arguments. He engaged in a course of deceitful conduct, according to the indictment, that was a clear crime if those allegations are true, and was outrageous. What he did was, according to the indictment, is he took the documents out of storage, led his lawyer to believe that he'd be conducting a full search of the boxes, and then caused his lawyer to file with the court something saying that he had completed a search.
How strong is the special counsel's case on obstruction specifically?
Well, it's very strong because a lot of the evidence comes from his own lawyers. And furthermore, there's evidence of him saying things that are completely incompatible with any idea that this was an innocent document dispute.
Do you believe he lied to the Justice Department?
Do I personally believe it? Yes, I do.
And do you believe that he continues to claim that he has all these privileges and rights under the Presidential Records Act? Is he mischaracterizing the act?
Absolutely. The legal theory by which he gets to take battle plans and sensitive national security information as his personal papers is absurd. It's just as wacky as the legal doctrine they came up with for, having the vice president unilaterally determine who won the election. The whole purpose of the statute, the Presidential Records Act, was to stop presidents from taking official documents out of the White House. It was passed after Watergate. That's the whole purpose of it. And therefore, it restricted what a president can take. It says it's purely private, that had nothing to do with the deliberations of government policy. Obviously, these documents are not purely private. It's obvious. And they're not even now arguing that it's purely private. What they're saying is the president just has sweeping discretion to say they are, even though they squarely don't fall within the definition. It's an absurd argument.
Do you believe if he is convicted, he should serve his prison sentence?
Well, we haven't even gotten to the point of whether he's been convicted and also what his sentence should be. I don't like the idea of a former president serving time in prison.
Republicans remain critical of the Attorney General who spoke out this week, as well as Director Wray at the FBI. They've rallied to Trump's side. Are they wrong to say that this Justice Department is acting in a political way?
Well, if they're pointing to this case, I think they're wrong. I think the department had no choice but to seek those documents. Their basic argument really isn't to defend his conduct because Trump's conduct is indefensible. What they're really saying is he should get a pass because Hillary Clinton got a pass 6 or 7 years ago. Now, I think, that's not a frivolous argument, but I'm not sure that's true. I think if you want to restore the rule of law and equal justice, you don't do it by further derogating from justice. You do it by applying the right standard here, and that's not unfair to Trump because this is not a case where Trump is innocent and being unfairly hounded. He committed the crime. Or if he did commit the crime, it's not unfair to hold him to that standard.
You say Trump's alleged conduct is indefensible. So many Republicans continue to defend him. What will it say if the party, your longtime party, puts him forward as their nominee?
Well, that's the problem. I don't think they're actually defending his conduct, but they are saying it's unfair to prosecute him. But that then raises another question. Okay, if it's unfair to prosecute him, that's not the whole answer. The question is, should we be putting someone like this forward as the leader of the country, leader of the free world, who is engaged in this kind of conduct? The other thing is, this is not just an isolated example. Trump has many good qualities, and he accomplished some good things. But the fact of the matter is, he is a consummate narcissist, and he constantly engages in reckless conduct that puts his political followers at risk and the conservative and Republican agenda at risk.
Would he put the country at risk if he was in the White House again?
He will always put his own interests and gratifying his own ego ahead of everything else, including the country's interests. There's no question about it. This is a perfect example of that. He's like a defiant 9-year-old kid who's always pushing the glass toward the edge of the table, defying his parents to stop him from doing it. It's a means of self-assertion and exerting his dominance over other people. And he's a very petty individual who will always put his interests ahead of the country's, his personal gratification of his ego. But our country can't be a therapy session for, a troubled man like this.
This is not the only special counsel investigation, an ongoing one on January 6th. So many witnesses being called in. You were the star witness for the House January 6th committee. Are you willing to testify, or have you already testified before the special counsel?
Well, if they called me in as a witness, of course I would testify. But all I said was what I said, what I recounted in my book about this false story about a stolen election.
Have you talked to them in any way behind the scenes, if not formal testimony?
Well, I'm not going to get into any communications I had with the government, but I don't expect to be a witness, but I'll be glad to be one if I'm called.
Trump was just indicted and arraigned in the records case. Do you believe he's a target potentially in the January 6th case?
Yes, and I've said from the beginning, by the way, I've defended him when I think there's cases that are unfair, like the one up in New York and so forth. And I've always said I think the January 6th case will be a hard case to make because of First Amendment interests, but I'm actually starting to think they will pull the trigger on that, and I would expect it to be this summer.
Do you believe the Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis will indict Trump in Georgia?
Yeah, I don't know much about her case. I don't know if it's a sound case or not. I'm skeptical about that. But
why are you skeptical?
Again, because of the First Amendment interest. We don't want to get into a position where people can't complain about an election and claim that an election
Trump
is
said
stolen.
on tape he wants the Secretary of State to find votes.
Yeah, I know, but there are innocent interpretations of what he said, which is, look, of all the votes that we think are bad, you certainly can find among them some that are slam dunk. But whether that's the proper interpretation or not, I am more skeptical of that case. But on the other hand, I think it's likely that it will be brought.
Former Attorney General William Barr, we really appreciate you taking the time to stop by and Face the Nation. We'll be right back. Don't go away.